McQueen, I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, and most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak to transportation professionals because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Corey Buchan, happy Monday. Let's go. He's over on YouTube. Dylan Turner, also over on YouTube. Happy Monday. Let's get some like any other day. And yeah, you guys, I'm trying to get everybody over to YouTube. Just the stream quality is exponentially better over there. You guys, I go live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, but I'm trying to get everybody over on YouTube for that, just because from what I hear, the stream just is very spotty on some of the other platforms, but YouTube has the best one out there. So if you're listening to this on the audio only replay later on, we do go live on YouTube as well. But shortened week, you guys, holiday week. And let me see, I got guests coming on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm not sure if we're going to be going live on Friday or not. Obviously, the 4th, we won't be, because you know what, you guys, enjoy this time, enjoy this week. And, like with that being said, though, it's like you see a bunch of, posts out there and everything else. And, I've just kind of come to the belief that, at the end of the day, if you need to take a day or two, take a day or two. And this is one of those weekends where it's good to take a day or two, because there's a lot of businesses that are closed. Yes, freight's going to be moving. I'm going to be working a normal schedule this week, but if your customers aren't, or for whatever reason, there's no shame in taking a couple of days to actually, reassess. But like what you're doing during that time, I think is, it's your choice, and go out there and do it. These people that are saying that you got to work 24/7, 365 aren't. They're all bullshitting. They're all trying to put on a facade that they're doing stuff that they're really not. But, at the end of the day, you guys, these are also opportunities where, when it is quiet, reassess where you're at this year. I know that you're going to see a bunch of posts as well out there about it's halftime, it's this and that and everything else under the sun. This is one of those times throughout the year where, you have to take stock of where you're at. How are you tracking towards your goals? Like I write down my goals that I'm going to accomplish throughout the year. I keep them on this little piece of paper that's on my wallet, and I'm going to be doing that this weekend. I'm going to be seeing how am I tracking towards a lot of those things, and taking those time to kind of reassess and see where things are, and and look back on what I've been able to accomplish this year and everything. So for all those people out there who are going to try and make it sound like they're hustling, they're not. They're going to be fucking drunk by the pool or drunk at the lake this weekend, and trying to post motivational bullshit. But again, you can use this time to really reassess where you're at in business, in your life, and make those necessary changes. So let me see here. Sunny Sharma, good morning and happy Canada Day out there, Orange Shirt Gang. Tony Darnell, happy July, my man, Tony. John Radvansky, the Rad Man. He says, good morning, freight people. Take some time to recharge your batteries if you need it. Yeah, man. I think like not everything's not going to fall apart if you take one day. And I'm saying that in jest, is like, don't do that every single week. But, I think that there's key times throughout the year. And the 4th of July to me is the one holiday throughout the year where like a lot of people nobody works really during that time. And especially with it falling on a Thursday, I would all but guarantee everyone's going to have limited crews on Friday and everything else. So I think that if there is a time, it's when a holiday like that falls on a Thursday. Carla Isted, good morning to you as well. But also, you guys, with that said, with it being a holiday week, Here's what I have already done this morning, and I would highly recommend each and every one of you get ahead of this as well. Let your customers, your prospects, people you're just starting to talk to, let them know your holiday hours, what your availability is, because at the end of the day, you guys, this is one of those weeks where you're going to get your number called in all reality if you've been actively following up with people, because you know what, people are going to take. Essentially, it's from half day at noon Eastern on Wednesday this week it's going to be spotty. So I look at it like this, though. With that being said, people are going to be leaving the office and everything. Those opportunities might fall in, but your customers and prospects won't know unless you email them, and again, if you're going to be available, I wouldn't set an out of office. I'm not going to set an out of office by any stretch of the imagination, because I know that the reality is my number might be called. So I already reached out and let them know about my holiday hours and everything else. And then also any shipments you guys have moving in transit this week, call every single facility out there. Just because they're normally first come, first serve doesn't mean they're going to be this week. So get ahead of that, you guys, because frankly, you don't want these drivers stranded this weekend. You want to get out there and get ahead of it so you can coordinate with those drivers. Fine, because at the end of the day, they want to shut down too. They want to be home. And, and especially if they're picking up in their backyard, like my man Honest here. What's up, Honest? He's out in Denver, like if one of his guys can just pick up and then sit for the weekend until Saturday or whatever, get ahead of this, you guys, and then find out where are they going to be parked, communicate all of this stuff, and get ahead of a lot of these things, because, at least from a freight broker's perspective, 99% of your fucking problems are self-inflicted because you're lazy and you're not out there doing the work. Tony Darnell says tons of manufacturers are simply not operating this week, especially seasonal ones like RVs. Yeah, man, and that's another thing too, you guys, like just call people, that one ironic thing or that odd thing that people like to avoid. Call, pick up that phone. Happy Monday as well, Honest. Appreciate you, brother. But yeah, I think like these are just great times, you guys, again, to really prove where your worth is, because, at least for me, every single customer that I've always brought on, very rarely is it a first come, first serve, 24/7, one pick, one drop opportunity. Your first shot is probably going to come on Wednesday afternoon this week with some of your prospects, or Friday, because nobody else is answering. They got a hot shipment that they need picked up. Like these are those opportunities. So, like what I was saying is if you need time, this is one of those weeks where, I feel like it's a good one to take. But if you're in a position like I'm in, where it's like I'm at growth at all costs, don't feel ashamed for fucking working, right? At the end of the day, because like there's a lot of opportunity that's out there. And I know this week is one of those opportunities. I've worked in transportation long enough to know that never schedule vacations around major holidays, at least in my phase of business right now, because this is when those opportunities come. I take time off in like fucking February and like October and shit, and just like non-peak times for the freight that I haul, and I schedule my time off around then because I want to be available during these weeks, and again, if you're out there, go all in this week, because again, a lot of people foot is off the gas. I just feel that sentiment out there that most people have given up for this year. And this is a great time to recalibrate and double down on your sales outreaches and everything else. Sam Hunter says these delays apply to the LTL side as well. I'm calling carriers this morning to make sure they go out for delivery today and tomorrow. Good morning to you as well, Sam. Sam's got a ton of experience on the LTL side. You guys, if you guys want a good follow over there, hit him up. But, again, you guys, this is all coming from transportation, veterans that are out there who've been in the industry for a long time. These are those times to make it with your customers, right? These are the times where your numbers get called. So if your book of business is in shambles or it's in growth mode and everything, this is when you have to be able to capitalize on that stuff. You truly do. Like if you want to go to the lake, go to the lake. But, at the end of the day, these opportunities come during these weeks. So, all right, you guys, let's get into some articles here. The Supreme Court's all over the news this morning, but specifically in regards to the transportation industry. And we won't go into anything else on that. But this article came out this weekend, you guys, and this is from FreightWaves, and it's Supreme Court ruling could, emphasis, keyword there, could boost freight carriers' legal powers. Let me see here. Freight carriers that want to challenge regulations that govern them may have received a significant boost from the Supreme Court in a decision that overturns a 40-year precedent of deference given to federal agencies. The High Court decided 6-3 to overrule the Chevron doctrine, a policy challenged in Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo that requires lower courts to defer regulatory agencies and legal challenges of regulations that agencies have interpreted from ambiguous statutes. The doctrine allows federal agencies to interpret unclear laws approved by Congress using a two-part test, checking if Congress has clearly addressed the issue. If not, determining if the agency's interpretation was regional. I think that they pretty much just upended the entire fucking federal government with those two statements right there, making sure it's clearly addressed the issue, because God knows we haven't. Excuse me, Justice Neil Gorsuch, who voted with the majority, wrote in the 114-page opinion that the doctrine forces judges to abandon the best reading of the law in favor of the views of those presently holding the reins of the executive branch. It requires judges to change and change again their interpretation of the law when the government demands out there. The Chevron deference requires courts to place a finger on the scales of justice in favor of the most powerful litigants, the federal government. The American Road and Transportation Builders Association sees Chevron's deference as a mixed bag. The doctrine has been both useful and abused, enabling policies, but also stretching an agency's authority, which we don't need at all. Policies affecting all modes of freight transportation having to do with operations, climate, or labor may now have to undergo heightened scrutiny at the agency level before they are rolled out. OIDA, which represents small business trucking companies, is assessing the potential effects to the change. The U.S. Supreme Court's overturning of this doctrine will undoubtedly have significant ramifications on federal regulations that will affect the trucking industry. OIDA's legal team is in the process of conducting a thorough analysis of the decision to provide its members of how it could potentially affect it. Ken Nahigian, co-founder of Balancing Act Project and advocacy group, that was created to navigate the effects of the policy change, said the companies generally should probably like this change because it has given them options. It gives them a voice again if they need to challenge their regulator. In general, an industry that's regulated would want to have the ability to challenge their regulator if rulemaking out there, yada, yada, yada. The Biden administration predicted that overturning Chevron would lead to convulsive shock to the legal system and litigants would come out of the woodwork. It will also take a while to find out those sorts of dramatic predictions out there. I'm not a fan of big government at all. I'm actually vehemently against it. I am also very much against the overreach of telling us essentially what we can and can't do in our businesses. So I personally am a fan of this. Obviously, there's a bunch of ramifications that can and will inevitably come from this. But, I look at it like this. I think that a great start would be to have the people, and again, this is just my theory on a lot of things, is if we're going to have anybody that is in like the DOT, for example, they should probably have worked extensively in the industry, because I feel like those are always going to bring the best policies out there, and they're going to have the most dialogue out there that is going to be productive dialogue. And I think that, at the end of the day, like our agencies should be extremely limited on what they can and cannot tell us as a private business or a private citizen out there. Like they should know literally nothing about us, but we should know everything about them, kind of how shit's supposed to be. But I think like with this, we should be challenging it. We should have a voice out there to be able to challenge everything that the Department of Transportation puts out, the FMCSA puts out, all of that stuff, right? Like this is why the TIA is such a great organization. And then the ATA, the TCA, all of these advocacy groups that are out on Capitol Hill fighting and pushing for bills and stuff like that to help navigate and be our voice out there on Capitol Hill as an industry as a whole. It's going to be interesting to see how a lot of this starts to come out and what could be. But again, I think anytime that these three-letter agencies' powers are limited and struck at the knees is a fucking good thing for private business and private citizens out there. So that article was from FreightWaves. And definitely check that one out, you guys, because that is a bigger one than I think is being currently reported out there. So I would definitely check that out. Let me see here. Next article is from my good friends over at the JOC. This is wrote from Bill Cassidy. Analysts divided over pace of truckload recovery while LTL gains speed. This is coming. The long recovery in the truckload demand is going to get even longer, stretching into 2025 and possibly 2026 as excess capacity absorbs increases in freight volumes. Trucking analysts and economists said at SMC3 Connection Conference. We are looking at steady growth, a little over 2% this year and a little more next year, said Avery Weiss, Vice President of Trucking at FTR. And then FTR forecasts dry-van loadings that will rise 2.1%. Refrigerated loadings are expected to increase 2.4%, and flatbeds are seen dropping 1% out there. There's still plenty of capacity in the sector. Despite a loss of approximately 36,000 companies out there, we still have roughly 96,000 more carriers than we had in February of 2020. We are right sizing, but not very quickly. I think a great reason to say why we are right sizing, but not very quickly is the article that I broke down last week where banks are not repossessing equipment. So again, I wonder how many trucks that are running down the road right now that aren't making payments on their trucks, and they're able to continue to operate because banks aren't repossessing their assets or anything like that because they don't want them. I forget the article. I think it was from TT News last week that I broke that one down where they talk about that. I think that's probably the biggest reason why nothing capacity hasn't left, because they don't have to fucking leave. Right? If you can remove your truck and trailer payment from your overhead and you just have fuel, and I mean, who knows if they're even fucking paying their insurance? I'm assuming they're paying their insurance, but still, like I think like when the banks don't repossess equipment and you can just continue to operate your business and not have two major overhead expenses count against your P&L. I mean, fuck, you wonder why that the rates are going to continue to stay down like this. Why that, who's getting punished? The people who operate with integrity and pay their fucking bills. We're the ones who are getting punished the most from this right now. The shippers are benefiting, right? Because shit, they got trucks, people who are hauling their freight who don't have any fucking bills to pay, essentially. And I would assume that if they are not paying their truck and trailer payment, realistically, they are not paying their credit cards as well. And there's a direct correlation between that and credit card limits that are at, all-time highs and stuff out there as well. So I think that is one of the big indicators out there on why the market is the way it is. Then it goes on to say what goes down. I think that contract truckload rates reset 5 to 6% higher in the first half of 2025 and maybe 2 to 3% for intermodal contracts, said Chris Pickett's. What goes down? It says truckload and intermodal rail contracts plummeted 20% in 2023. Preliminary numbers for June show an average shippers paying $222 per mile on spot business out there. And then all that data from the JOC, pulls all of that data from Cargo Chief, DAT, LoadSmart, and a survey of non-asset logistics providers. Pickett said his data shows spot truckload rates are down 1.8% year over year. But Vice and other speakers at the SMC3 event don't expect as high of an increase out there. We're not really seeing much that's going to change this dynamic. The gradual incremental loss of capacity, this gradual improvement in freight, we'll see a little bit of a rate strength returning to truckload, but we won't see that until the beginning of next year. Then it goes on to say, wait until next year. Analysts agree that truckload pricing will rise in 2025, but there's less consensus on how much or how swiftly. FTR predicts rates, contracts, and spot will drop 2.3% in 2024 and rise 3.4% in 2025. Load activity in the spot market is closely tracking to year-ago levels. Less than truckload carriers are on a different route. LTL capacity contracts at about 10% in 2023. Following the collapse of Yellow, the U.S. economy seems to be operating on multiple pains. People who are making more than $75,000 a year have more wealth than ever, and they're on the top of that K. LTL, likewise, is on the top of the K-shaped recovery, and truckload is at the bottom. and that the U.S. LTL producer pricing index was up 8.2% a year over year in April. So again, you guys, this is a really good article for you guys to break down and look at when it comes down to it. Again, I think that like I've talked about, and I think this is another good point. I've been talking about this since like fucking October at this point of how the market will come up. I mean, by this time next year, you guys, there's going to be articles out reporting about how rates are up, 80 cents a mile since 2023 and shit like that. And it's because it's a ratchet up effect, you guys, because as you're going into the bid season and everything, you guys, carriers will raise their rates. Customers will push back on that. Like realistically, you guys. So I think, again, like, and I've talked about this a lot, brokers' margins are going to continue to be compressed here coming into 2025. I wouldn't be surprised by that because I don't think customers are going to reset and all of a sudden start agreeing to any significant rate increases. But carriers are going to put their feet down as these markets recover. Because again, this week, holiday week, you guys, rates are going to be up. Okay, there is no doubt rates are going to be up. And again, my example is always this: if rates were moving $2 a mile during the holiday, or excuse me, before the holiday, and then they jump up to $2.15 a mile for the holiday week, they won't go all the way back down to $2 a mile. Realistically, they'll drop back down to like $2.05 a mile. All right. And then the next bump, same thing. It'll go from 205, then it'll be 220 during that holiday. And then it'll drop down to 210. It won't go all the way back down. That's the ratchet up effect that I'm talking about here. So pay attention to that number, you guys. Okay. That's the data for a lot of us that we need to be watching out there. So that article is from the JOC, and analysts divided over the pace of the recovery. There's going to be, again, you guys, there's always a ton of it, the market's recovering. Look at this, look at this, look at this. I think that it's so much further away than where a lot of people want, because most people, when they're reporting about this shit, want to be the first one to say, hey, we said that this was going to happen. Well, data, I can make all the fucking predictions in the world and then pick and choose the ones that I say come true. But again, how does this, like, what can you do? I know that I talk about this a lot, but I think that this is more realization that a lot of us out there, you guys, a lot of the overall freight market doesn't necessarily affect us, because when you see a lot of this data, you guys, is this going to stop you from cold calling? Is this going to stop you from selling? Is this going to stop you from strengthening your relationships or fighting for your business? Some of you, it will. You cannot deny the fact that there are people that are going to go out of business this year. There are probably a significant amount of companies that are going to go out of business this year because they read headlines this year like this and they think, well, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to throw in the towel. If nothing's going to improve till 2026, why do I want to continue down there? That's a thought process that goes through a lot of people's heads. But again, how does this affect your business? I always say stick to the basics during this time, you guys. Like, stick to the basics. If you've been sending 50 sales emails, continue to send your 50 sales emails every single day. Do not lose sight of that. Continue to make your calls, continue to do what you are doing out there to develop your business, because there are plenty of opportunities that are out there, you guys. There are plenty of opportunities that will continue to come available. So, frankly, it doesn't matter when the market's going to recover, because at least from my perspective, you guys, because I got bills to pay today, right? Like, I can't sit here and wait till 2025 or 2026. Like, realistically, you guys, bold statement here. Most brokers, you guys, it's not going to be a broker's market till probably 2027 at this point, right? Because I truly feel in my heart of hearts, it's going to be a very long time. It'll probably be at least 2 more years before another cycle is actually ran through. Because I don't think anything of substantial changes is going to happen this year. I truly don't. Again, ratchet up approach. I think that the next time it's a broker's market, it could be late 2026 or early 2027. And I'm not sitting here trying to fearmonger anybody, but the reality is this market is not going to change into freight brokers' favor at all. On the contrary. So if you're a broker and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to wait to start selling, it's going to be a very long fucking time before this market shifts back into your favor at by any stretch of the imagination. So again, that's why I always talk, you guys, stick to the basics, hold yourself accountable, make your calls, do your site visits, do your sales emails, whatever your business development strategy that's working for you, continue to do that because most people have given up at this point in the year. They're going to continue to give up as the year progresses because it is not going to get easier from a freight broker's perspective. So take that for what it's worth. If you're going to wait to start selling, take that for what it's worth. Mike Mikulik, what is up? Big dog coming in the house. Good to see you, Mike. John Radvansky says that's a bit scary. I'm assuming you were talking about the article about people not making payments on their trucks and trailers. I would assume that maintenance is secondary, but I don't know, man. I don't run my business like a shady operation. At least I try not to anyway, so I can't really answer that. Nick, my man, he says, let's go, Big Chris. All right, you guys, we got a couple more minutes left. I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to break down another article, but I was going to another one was also from FreightWaves, and you guys, I would read this one if I were you, because again, it's just additional insight on the state of logistics in 2024, low rates and excess capacity, but signs of a recovery are there, but overall demand of freight is expected to remain subdued. Again, you guys, I think that there's a lot, and okay, so this might be a really good one for you guys to read because it says that the views are expressed in this article are solely by the author and do not necessarily represent the views of FreightWaves. So this is probably a really good one for you guys to go in and read. Let me see here. But yeah, you guys, that's going to be it for today. We'll have a guest on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. We'll be releasing our normal podcast as we are, except for Thursday. We might not be going live on Friday. It just depends on that. But as always, you guys, if you guys got value in what you heard today, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network. Because at the end of the day, this is how we grow, you guys. This is how we can reach more and more people, is because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.